quickly take a look at the original feature of the Teacher Atlas, which is to view your students' books. Why might you want this? Well, if you're teaching online, it's obvious you need a copy of your students' music, even if you're not physically present with them. And it's a lot easier to have it contained in one device than it is to have all of the books on your bookshelf. Because remember, in the Piano Adventures teaching library, there are over 300 books. So they're all contained here in the Teacher Atlas. In person, you might have a use for this if your student maybe occasionally forgets a book. I've certainly had that with a lot of my students. It's great for browsing all the books at various levels so that you can figure out what supplemental pieces you might want to show to your student. It's also great if you want to access any of the duets that are available, especially if you're in a situation in your studio where you were teaching from two pianos. It's really nice to be able to play one piano while your student's at the other one, centered at the keyboard, etc. You might want to use the Teacher Atlas to try out a supplemental piece before your student makes the purchase of a specific book. So why don't we actually dive into one of the books, shall we? I don't have a favorite level, but here we are. You can see our navigation is quite simple, color coordinated. All of these levels are tappable or clickable, depending on what sort of device you're on. So for fun, let's take a look at the adult books, shall we? Now you can see here everything available in the adult category of the Piano Adventures series. Course Book 1 and its supplements, Course Book 2 and its supplements. You'll note here that any new books that have been added recently are denoted with a red flag that says new. So if I've got an adult student, it's very possible they already have Course Book 1, and I also as a teacher might. This is one of my favorite uses of the Atlas, and that is to look at any of the supplemental books at a given level. Let's, for fun, open up our new Disney book. You can see that it opens up in a new tab in my Chrome browser. And essentially what you're getting here is a streaming version of the physical printed book. Now, in the case of a new book, one of the great things about the Atlas is that we often will place them into the Teacher Atlas before they've even hit your local retailer. So it's a really nice way to see any of the new releases before anybody else. Great, so you can see I would open that up and I would treat it just like any book. For fun, you can see if you turn your device horizontal, or if you're on a laptop or a computer, you can select different viewing arrangements. You can now see a full two-page layout. Let's go back to our main Atlas tab so we can pull open another book. Let's say we actually want to look at some of the other features that have been added to many of our books. So if I open Course Book 1, if you own a physical copy of Course Book 1, especially if you own a copy of it that's been printed in the last couple of years, you'll notice that we have QR codes available in those. And those QR codes in the physical book you can scan with your phone, but here in the Teacher Atlas you can simply click on a QR code. So let's head to one of the pieces you might have a student working on now. Let's say Russian folk song, for example. Now if you take a look on the page, you'll notice a few things that you might not have noticed before. One of those is a clickable audio button right next to the title of the song. So this little music note will bring up an audio recording of an accompaniment track. So if you want to provide your student with a little bit of auditory context, this is a great option. Let's listen to that for a moment. In addition to the audio track, we also have this clickable QR code down here. That's going to bring up a new tab in which you can actually view a model performance video of the piece. You'll notice this one has both hands together with both an overhand or an overhead view and a side view. In addition, we have more audio selections here. So if you were interested in hearing a version of the piece at a practice tempo, a slower tempo, especially if it's, a newer piece for your student, I would go ahead and tap that. I can adjust further the tempo by using any of these selectors here. This refers to our playback speed. So right now we're at 1 times. .75 times the speed, or a faster version. Back to one of our original uses of the Teacher Atlas, viewing the books. Right now we're taking a look at the adult, but let's scroll up and see what else, just for fun. Maybe I want to learn a piece from our BigTime music from China, or at least I want to hear what that might be, because you might not yet know about that book. Here we arrive at a rich teaching resource of culturally interesting music by original composers and arrangers from China. Let's play a song, shall we? It's a beautiful way to be able to sample new music that you don't necessarily have experience teaching, but you want to learn more about what there is at each level.